Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and it finally happened. GSX has started to conduct their first real-world pushback trials, aka a 737 has crashed into a blast fence during pushback. Or at least that is what a lot of media is reporting these days, with emphasis on the headlines of the BBC over here going a little clickbaity, saying badly damaged and crashed near Runway, and the Independent Ryanair plane crashes into a Stansted fence. Come on. I mean, be a little bit more serious and down to earth, please. Well, but the event isn't exactly a new one. But why did it show up in the media all just now? Well, that's quite easy to explain. So if you go on to the website of the Air Accidents Investigation Branch, or the AAIB, which is the British equivalent of the, in the simulation community, somewhat better known NTSB from the United States, then they have just released a report over here on Boeing 737-8AS, which is the Ryanair 737s. And if you look at it over here, you can see it's published 11th of December, but the date of occurrence is actually the 21st of August 2024. So it's been a little while ago, but yeah, everyone needs to earn money and make headlines. It's okay, we can just let that slide. Now, what exactly has really happened? Well, in this video, I want to have a look into the original bulletin that's been released and go over what really happened there when this so-called crash near the runway, shout out to you BBC, you really deliver good headlines, when that really happened. So let's just go over a little bit of the stuff over here. It's been a 737-800, standard stuff really, 6 crew, 181 passengers, and nature of the damage to tail cone, tail fuselage, and APU. And if we want to have a look at something, we can see a CCTV footage of the aircraft being in the blast fence over here, and we can see some image of the damage that has occurred down here. Now, would I call that a crash? Nah, not really. Is that substantial damage? Well, it's definitely going to cost a couple of quid. But overall, it looks like it is mostly visual damage to the tail skids, to some of the APU areas, and apparently the APU itself has also suffered a bit of damage, but there is nothing in the report that would indicate that the APU itself completely broke. So, yeah. If you want to call that badly damaged, or if you want to call that crash, so be it. It certainly generates more clicks, so if it earns them money to continue their journalism, then let that slide. But what really happened? Alright, so let's go into this. So going a little bit further up, we can see the airplane's been on stand 63 on the right, over here at Stansted. They got pushback clearance, most likely, it doesn't say the exact clearance in the report, but most likely something like pushback approved, a beam stand 61 left, or something, because they very likely wanted to get aircraft to taxi into here into the 62s, maybe even into 61 right, and therefore the aircraft was supposed to push back all the way to the very end. Now, Stansted Airport has what is called tuck release points. And this is what a tucked release point looks like. It used to be that ½ meter line on the right hand side of the taxi lane. Now, by now they've actually corrected those, and by now the lines have been made a little bit wider so that they're easier to see, which is one of the actions that's been conducted after this event happened. Now, as we can see on the graphics up here, the airplane started to push back, and the report generally says that the pushback crew itself had a trainee on them who was doing their second overall pushback. As you can see down here, pushback was commenced by the trainee driver. Initial turn onto the taxiway centerline was started too early, so with some instruction from the TUC instructor, the trainee driver made several corrective turns. Noting this, the aircraft commander asked the headset operator what was happening, who then explained that the driver was undergoing training. So far, so normal. Now, in most cases, when they do pushback training, they would actually advise the flight crew before starting the pushback, but then again, as a pilot myself, I can only say that I've been advised that there will be training undergoing so many times, obviously I do not know how often they conduct the training without actually telling me about it. So I would say so far so normal. So the trainee now did something that was absolutely the right call. They decided to stop the pushback and ask the instructor to take over. Now, this is where things really started to happen. After swapping the seats, the instructor recommenced the pushback and correcting the aircraft back onto the taxiway centerline, and he continued to reassure and advise the trainee while performing the pushback, looking at her while doing so. And this is probably where things start to get fancy. But let's just quickly run into our simulator on our own over here and have a look at what most likely happened over there. So I'm just going to use the Aerosoft Toolbar Pushback Pro over here, because that one lets me do a manual pushback. So we'll just be doing that. So we're in Stansted 63 on the right over here, and we've just started our pushback. Initially you just go straight for a bit, and this is the part that's been driven by the trainee. So if we just go down here, this would be something like the point of view that the pushback driver would have. As you can see, it's rather difficult to see all the lines in the back there. And if we remember looking at the original report, so I am just going to stop the pushback here for a second. If we remember looking at the original report, we could see that there were actually some traces of moisture on the apron, so it might even have been wet. Now, if we change those conditions a bit here, let's just go to rain, and if we just wait for a bit until the simulator has built up some rain on the apron, then you, when going down here, will quickly see how difficult it becomes to actually be able to see something. This gets even more obvious if we just go to the showcase camera here and just go down to something like this. So pushback driver view, something like that. You can see it's very, very hard to actually be able to see those lines, which is why it's so important that the lines are in a good shape. Okay, so this is our position here. If we just clear the weather back up again, then we get the point of view that, judging by the report, I would most likely expect to have over here. And this is what it looks like. So as you can see, seeing the lines is really not all that easy. So let's go ahead and continue that pushback and see what might have happened here. So start manual pushback, please. Now, as you can see, very, very hard to see anything at all here from this perspective, at least much harder than from what the typical flight simmer is used to. And then the trainee driver might have started the turn too late and then overturn, had to correct a little bit, and well, he eventually, you know, tried to get that pushback right, but probably had some issues doing so. So ultimately the trainee said, no, I don't feel up to the task right now, trainer, please take over. And then the trainer took over, corrected the airplane's position, and eventually pushed them, or continued pushing them. Now, as you can see from 63 right over here, all the way to the end is a little bit of a distance that you have to cover. And knowing Stansted, because I've flown there quite a bit myself, they would often ask you to make a pushback to stay clear of a certain stand. Let's say, for example, you have an aircraft that's currently taxiing inbound, that's supposed to go on the 62 left over here. Then you would push that 737 that wants to push back all the way behind it, so that it eventually gets clear, so that while we are still starting our engines, another aircraft could enter the stand over here. Now, one of the contributing factors to the accident, as stated by the trainer, by the pushback driver, was that the 737 they've been pushing had not started the engines yet. Now, as you can probably guess, with a pushback that's expected to be as long as this one, and then even an airplane still taxiing in front of you, the flight crew might delay the engine start for quite a bit. Now, why does that affect the pushback? Well, quite easy. Now, an aircraft engine, when it is in idle, does not, unlike your car, simply not deliver any thrust, but much rather the aircraft engine is going to have quite a bit of thrust already. Now, for this reason, the behavior of the tug during the pushback is quite different whether you are actually pushing an airplane with the engines on or with the engines off. When the airplane's got its engine on, then you need a lot less brakes, or in many cases, no brakes at all to actually stop the aircraft. Now, the driver stated in his report that because the engines haven't been started yet, the airplane just kept pushing and pushing. Now, one thing that I can unfortunately not show you in the sim is the tuck release point, because it is missing from the ini-build scenery. As you can see, there is no release point anywhere here on the line. So eventually the tuck driver just kept pushing, and apparently has been so focused on teaching the trainee that they pushed the aircraft beyond the actual tuck release point. According to the report, by default you have about 14 meters behind a 737-800 when you stop on the actual release point, so it's going to be somewhere like here, I would assume. And they just kept driving until eventually the airplane crashed into the blast fans. Now, something like this. Brilliant. Okay, so that happened. And when it happened, they actually decided, okay, that is not good, and the driver pulled the airplane back forward, pulling it out of the fence again, thereby probably doing a little bit more damage than what was originally done. But that's the entire thing that happened. And what's quite interesting to check in the report as well is that Ryanair does not just have a pushback tuck, they also have a headset operator who is walking outside the tuck. And they also have a wingman who, should probably see things exactly like this. But neither of the two actually did anything to stop the pushback. Now the report goes on to detail what they could have done, and if we just have a very quick look into that, we can see an extract from the ground manual here for aircraft marshalling signals, and this is the signal to do an emergency stop of the aircraft, and there would be a second signal where you simply clench your fist, which is the signal to the tuck driver to actually stop the pushback, let's say normally. Neither of that happened, and we all have already seen the outcome of that. Now, what exactly has happened as a consequence of this accident, and what have they done to improve this? So this is written at the very bottom of the report, and this is probably the most important part of any such report. That is the safety actions, or respectively safety recommendations. And as you can see, there have been two safety actions that have been implemented as a result of this. The first one is that the maximum nose wheel tuck release point has been increased in size from 0.5 meter to 1 meter and is now painted on either side of the taxiway center line. So if we just think about it, you've got the tuck instructor sitting in here looking at the trainee. He might not have seen the tuck release point being only on the right hand side of the line in first place. He might have looked to the left to his trainee, not seen the line, or not seen the tuck release point. Now, the tuck release point is on both sides of the center line. Now, the second action that has been implemented is a reminder that has been issued to all staff about the tuck release point, and that an aircraft nose wheel should not go beyond it during pushback. And this is especially important not just for the tuck drivers, but also for the headset operator and the wingman, so that they all are now fully aware that if that airplane goes beyond that point, take action, do something. Now, that's everything that happened over here. That's what BBC classifies as a Ryanair crash near the runway with an airplane that's been badly damaged. As you can see, contrary to what a lot of the media is suggesting in their headlines, it wasn't all that bad of an event. Obviously, it would have cost quite a couple of pounds to repair, but Ryanair has a hangar at Stansted anyway, so it's not that much of a problem. Well guys, and this is what you get when GSX is conducting pushbacks in the real world. Let's hope that they've learned and that these things are going to improve in the future. As we can see, the safety recommendations have been done based on this. And this is everything that is behind that apparent Ryanair crash near the runway. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. As always, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and if you really love what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one.